So I've done my kind of in progress review of Star Wars Outlaws, and I kind of just want to do a really quick, honestly, kind of final review with final review scores and things like that. It's also been interesting, kind of seeing the discussion around the game and seeing the things that other people cared about or didn't, and let's just jump into it. So I know I was kind of wavering on the what score I would give this. I like to score things out of 10, 0 to 10. Um, think of my score as more of like a recommendation. I'm not necessarily saying it's a this score out of 10 quality game. That's too subjective. The thing I think I can score best is my recommendation. So like if I give a game a 10 out of 10, I think everyone should try that game. If I give a game like an 8 or a 9, I'm saying like most people should try it out. If you're hesitant, wait for a sale. If I'm saying like 6 or 7, maybe I'm like people in this genre are probably gonna like this game. You should give it a shot eventually. But maybe it's not for everyone. And then anything below that is probably where I'm not recommending the game. So I think the thing with Star Wars Outlaws is I think the Metacritic score has it about perfect. The last time I looked, it was a 76 out of 100, so the equivalent of a 7.6. I don't like doing the point 0.1 scale, so I think a 7.5 out of 10 is a pretty reasonable score for this game. I think it's tough. And I want to go through some of the major parts of a video game to talk about why that's a tough score for me to give it for many reasons. So, like we talked about graphics, and I mentioned this in my kind of pre-review. Really, really, really good. I played on Xbox Series X. Definitely struggles in there. The AMD's FSR frame generation stuff seems to be doing a ton of heavy lifting. And if you've seen other games where FSR is like really doing a lot of the work, you're going to notice things seem a little fuzzy. Things just don't always look right. But then in other moments, especially in interior shots, the graphics are just wild. They're so pretty. The only thing that's like consistently kind of weird is hair, especially the main character, Kves. Her hair, it's just got like too much movement, which is like so hard to complain about because for so many years we've wanted like better looking and more realistic hair, especially in the Snowdrop engine. As a Division 1 and 2 fan, knowing how kind of rough some of the just human stuff is, just how humans have always looked in this engine. It's been up or down, but especially hair has looked pretty awful in a lot of situations. Where it looks better in this game, it looks pretty good. There's just a lot of movement. I would say the same thing about some of the foliage, and I believe it's Tashara, the first planet you really go to. It's like it was way too much. It's a bit much, but that gets very nitpicky. Overall, this game is gorgeous. Ubisoft Massive are just masters of the environmental, game design, from sunsets to sunrises to storms to just every bit of lighting in the game, whether it's ray traced or not. Even on the Xbox console, the lighting is just insane. And if you've seen any of the footage of like people playing this on like $4,000 or $5,000 rigs with like a 4090 and a super high end processor and everything you could ask for, this game, it's a masterclass. Digital Foundry has done their video on it and was extremely complimentary about the graphics of this game. So if you're playing on a Series S or Series X or PS5, you may not fully appreciate this part of the game, and that's probably going to be the majority of people. I still think in those experiences, though, it's still a pretty game, and I think they should be extremely proud of the kind of graphical kind of status they've reached. When it comes to the gameplay, all of the talk has been about the stealth sections. When I have talked about it before, I had said I hadn't run into that many of them. Like where, like if you get caught, the game's over, you reload at a checkpoint. By the end of the game, which I have finished, that's why I'm doing this video, you run into more of those. And some of them are kind of frustrating. I am not a stealth guy. Assassin's Creed, I'm always the one that like stealth kills one guy and then either, ends up getting caught and destroys everyone, and like just war, or I run away until they don't see me anymore. So stealth isn't my thing. I get frustrated with that stuff extremely easily. There's definitely a couple parts in this game where I got frustrated or whatever, but not to the point where it like ruined my experience. Some of the reviews I've seen and the videos I've seen by people are acting like it's like a game breaker for them. If you get even more frustrated than me, and if you dislike stealth sections even more than I dislike them, then yeah, sure, like it could ruin the game for you. I find it hard to believe there's that many people in that category. I think out of every 5 combat encounters or situations, let's say out of every 10, maybe 3 of them have this stealth, like required stealth element. You can stealth the whole game. And it seems like you can, there's definitely a few places where like you'll be forced out of stealth, but you can stealth the whole game. And then there's a lot of places, thank goodness for me, where you can just pop off and shoot everything and everyone and blow everything up. And that's what I did, almost every time. The only times I didn't do that is when I couldn't. And even when you can't, one little tip is that if there's a stealth section where if you get caught or an alarm gets tripped, it ends that section. You have to restart. Only if they accomplish that. Now, when it's a thing where they catch you, it's a little tougher. But if they have to set off an alarm, you can disable all the alarms. You can kill the NPC trying to set the alarm before they do it. It shows you who's doing it. You can kill them. There's even a few sections in the game where I noticed that even though they set off the alarm and it even reloaded my checkpoint, I was able to get to the next objective before that happened. And so when it like gave me the alarm tripped or whatever, and it reloaded the checkpoint, it reloaded the next part of the next section of the game past that part. So if you really get frustrated with it, turn the difficulty as low as you can. And sometimes just beeline it to the next part of the game once you know where it is. And if you can catch a checkpoint, you're good. Maybe they'll fix that. Maybe they won't. I don't know. That's a lot of talk for gameplay, just about the stealth stuff, because it is a pretty significant part of the game. But for the most part, you're set up for success, at least in my experience, especially as someone who doesn't really enjoy that type of gaming. I think everything else in the game really makes up for it, though. I didn't love the stealth stuff, but it didn't ruin the game for me. And I think a lot of the other things really helped a lot. I could go on forever about this, and I don't want to. So what I'll say is that the first half of the game or so, I was pretty organically just going around doing side missions, discovering stuff organically, just kind of, cruising on the first planet. And then I realized like, I want to finish this game and talk about it. And I basically golden pathed it. There's a bunch of like people who can give you skills and stuff. I only found like half of them by the time I finished the game. You can go back after the game is over and finish stuff that you didn't during the regular playthrough. But I only found like half the people. So I know I was missing like half of the mechanics in the game by the time I finished. That probably impacted the way I felt about the ending of the game when it comes to gameplay. And I'll touch on that in a moment. But I suggest if you play Star Wars Outlaws to not rush it. When you feel like you want to advance the story, go ahead and do that. But don't be afraid to just drive around, to just explore, to listen to conversations and pick up side missions, to find the little stashes and stuff where you can get gear and credits and materials. Don't rush it, because once I started rushing it, my enjoyment of the game dropped quite a bit. I think if I would have had like a month to review this game, I'd probably have a higher rating of it because I would have felt like I had the time. And that's a whole different conversation. The end of the game, I'm not going to spoil it. What I will say is that you hit the last like hour of the game, and I feel like it starts to pick up momentum and things start to get going. And that's where I feel like at least I want like a pretty smooth, I don't want to say easy, but keep momentum up until the end of the main story. And there's a thing that happens that I didn't like, and I felt like it completely stopped momentum, and that was frustrating for me. It wasn't really that hard. It didn't ruin the ending for me. it's just, I'll just say that I've seen a lot of other reviewers and stuff saying that they felt like the game really crawled at the beginning and bloomed and blossomed at the end. And I don't disagree, especially narratively, but there was a thing that happens at the end of the game where things were moving and moving, and then it just feels like they kind of put the brakes on and it felt unnecessary, but maybe people disagree. When it comes to the story, I'm not going to give any spoilers, so I'll make this extremely short. I love the characters in this game. I think Nyx is awesome. I think Kves is a great character. So many of the people you interact with, the things that happen in the story, the twists, the turns, I think they're great. The references that are both very direct and some are very vague. The way that you feel like you are in the Star Wars universe, I think it's great. So without giving any spoilers, I think the story part of this game is great. I've seen some complaints about the writing and stuff. It's Star Wars. I'm not expecting it to be the best stuff in the world. And I think it represents that world and that IP extremely well. So I think a 7.5 out of 10 is my final kind of score for this game. It's a very positive 7.5 out of 10. I think the majority of people should at least try this out. Maybe wait for a deep sale if you're not sure about it. If you're not a Star Wars fan, if you get even more frustrated and have less patience with games than me, maybe stay away from it because it can tick you off a little bit. If you can't handle the fact that there are some like really obvious mechanical choices that seem like they shouldn't have done them, maybe stay away from it. But I think like 75% of people, maybe that's what my score is. 75% of people will at least enjoy this game enough to feel like it was worth buying. But so 7.5 out of 10, that's what I'm going to give it. If you play it, let me know what you think down in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comments. I am happy to answer them. If you want more of my content, please subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you want to support my channel by buying merch or becoming a YouTube member or Twitch subscriber, if you want to check out my other things I do, like a couple podcasts I have, click the link in the description of the video. That is all I have for this one. So until next time.